Hey guys, I just finished setting up a new terrarium for some amazing toads with supplies I purchased from New England Herpeticulture. Herp is the sponsor of today's episode of the Frog Rack podcast. They have been my first choice for terrarium supplies since they opened their doors in 2009. I keep shopping with Herp because Mike and Jessica are hobbyists first. They continue to have first-hand experience building vivariums and providing excellent care for captive herps. They have the best customer service, fast shipping, and a wide selection. I can always find the herp supplies I need at neherpeticulture.com. If you keep reptiles or amphibians, and you are looking to build the perfect bioactive habitat, NEherp is your go-to source for terrariums, lighting, live plants, substrates, microfauna, wood, decor, supplements, feeder insect culturing supplies, and more. Like I said, everything you need in one place. Trusted nationwide by hobbyists, dart frog enthusiasts, and zoos, and your favorite Frog Rack podcaster. NEherp is your one-stop vivarium shop. So head on over to neherpeticulture.com and pick up the supplies you need to support your herp hobby. Thank you, NEherp, for supporting today's episode of the Frog Rack podcast. Welcome to the Frog Rack podcast. Today's guest is Kyle Martin of NCdartfrogs. Welcome, Kyle. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me.
You've been involved in the dart frog hobby for quite a while now, and you've been growing your hobby to this dart frog business. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in frogs in the first place and how it turned into a business for you?
Okay. Well, I've always been into animals. I was growing up. I was one of those kids that was always down in the woods collecting salamanders and frogs and all that stuff. But my main passion had been aquariums for a while. I decided to pursue a career in that industry and went to college out in Salisbury, Maryland, and got my degree in biology and chemistry and started working in coral aquaculture. From the coral aquaculture, I actually started a seahorse breeding business, and that's when I got my first dart frogs. This was about
Okay.
8 or 9 years ago, and they were just pets. But I've always thought they were kind of the coolest animals you can keep. And I ended up selling that seahorse business and just coral farming again for a little while after moving down to North Carolina. And the itch just got into me, build another business and work for myself. So I had one of my friends build me the NCdartfrogs website, just as a place to offload stuff I've produced. Frogs, plants, tadpoles. I don't buy or resell anything. I don't do any dry goods, anything like that. It's just was a way for me to kind of recoup some of my expenses, and it turned into a successful business. So I've been doing that for a few years now, and it's turned out great.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a pretty logical progression. A lot of people find themselves, if they get into the dart frog hobby, one tank turns into two, two turns into a frog rack turns into a frog room, and sure enough, these dart frogs aren't the most complicated pet animal to reproduce, and so a lot of hobbyists trade and sell their offspring, and the bigger your hobby, the more you have to pass along to other hobbyists.
That's exactly right. It's some people when I was first thinking of making it into a business, people would say, it's you can't make a business selling dart frogs. It's just not enough in it because everybody can do it. It's like, well, yeah, everybody can do it, but it's also a pretty big market. So I never went into it originally breeding and selling as making it my life income, but since I've been in the animal industry my whole life now, I've kind of know how it works. And uh, first things first is just always have excellent quality frogs, and second thing is just excellent customer service. And through those two things, I've been able to make it a successful business. So that's actually what I do full time is just NC Dart Frog.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Um, I've been in the hobby for about 25 years. And so when I first started, there was a good handful of business. In the late 90s, there was already a half a dozen or so businesses, people, hobbyists who were going full time producing dart frogs for the pet market. And I've seen a lot of businesses come and go over the years, which is fine. People's interests and passions change. But I agree that the market has always been there to support a side hustle hobby or to support someone like yourself producing frogs for the hobby. And when I sort of took a hiatus around 2016 while I was busy in my personal life, building a new house, changing careers and stuff, and when I started paying attention again in about 2021 to the dart frog side of the hobby, I sort of noticed that there weren't as many morphs as widely available as I remembered them being available back in like 2012 or something. And so I quickly found NCdartfrogs, and I was like, okay, here's someone who's producing. You have a lot of like dendrobates and Ranitomea species available. Here's someone who's sort of like carrying the torch for the hobby, that like being part of what we need to keep these animals going in captivity. So I'm happy to see it.
Exactly. So it's the like you said, the dendrobates are, especially tinctorius, are my personal favorite. I think I'm up to like 18 locales now. And then the Ranitomea too. I'm not a big Ufega guy. A lot of people love the large obligates or the Pumilio. And I have some. I have some redheads, some red frog beach. Those are actually my only two Ufega I have. And they're cool, but I mean, I'm a pink guy. I like big, bold, and beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, the large obligates are amazing, and people who have been in the hobby have been wanting those for decades. And so it's really amazing that healthy ones are available now. But yeah, I feel you. Personally, I just have a lifelong soft spot for Dendrobates auratus. It was my first dart frog, and I love all the different morphs, and I'm really passionate about seeing a lot of those morphs continue being available in the hobby. Tell us, before you show us around your frog room, tell us a little bit about how it has developed over the years, like from where your frog rack or frog room started to where it is today.
Absolutely. I started out with one frog wall that I actually got lucky and found somebody on Facebook Marketplace that was getting rid of a bunch of ZooMed 18 by 18 by 24, $30 each. Um,
Nice.
they were a couple states away, but for that price and the quantity available, I rented a U-Haul and I drove up and, and got some. And I made that my frog wall 1.0. And I, like you said, they're addictive, so I kind of constrained myself to just that wall for a while. Eventually, I convinced myself to, I can have another wall. That's Frog Wall 2.0 behind me. Um, but it started actually back before I am where I am now. My wife and I were also lucky enough to have a house built, and in doing so, picking out the floor plan, um, we decided I could have the office area, which I called my frog office, and I'll show you that. And then the formal dining room where I am now is I was able to make it my frog lounge. So I was able to run RO tubing in the walls while the house was being built and all that. So I don't have
Nice.
water reservoirs or anything like sitting out. It's just all, right in the wall. Um, and to be able to let my wife, allow me to have this, I had to make it look nice and presentable. So that's why I kind of separated everything out. And I'll show you. So here is the frog lounge. This is the formal dining room. So you can see it's opened up. It's just an archway. So it's open to the house. So I have to keep everything nice looking in here. So this is just the displays. Let me see if I can switch. I don't know. This is the displays I have. This Frog Wall 1.0. Let me see if I can get it. And so you can see now, a lot of people are going to notice I use two labels for each tank, and that is because I do cohabitate Dendrobates and Ranitomea. Um, I don't cohabitate anything that can hybridize, and I don't have any aggression. So it allows me basically to keep twice as many frogs in the same amount of space. So it is something that I do. My first frogs were Robertus. Here's them right there. And are we able to see? Are you able to see this? Okay, I'm not sure how to.
Yeah, it's recording fine. Yeah,
Okay.
every time you if you want to pause on each tank for like a good 2 or 3 seconds, that just lets the camera catch it and focus.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So where was so these are my is my frog wall 1.0. I got some peacock and imitators. Here's your favorite, the Aratus. I love my Pinna Blanca. They're really nice. and they're in there with some imitators. I have some Brazilian yellowheads and some more imitators. Banded Lucamellas and Yukari. I won't go through all of these, but some Blackfoot. Let's see who we can find next out. Here are my Patricias. These are one of my favorites, very popular frogs. Giant orange. And again, so I won't go through all of them, but a lot of Tinctorius. I love those. And so this is my setup that I built. My shelving I built so I could most easily see the top row here. So I wanted the least amount of space between each tank. So this is actually just plywood in between these barnwood facades. And the whole thing is on wheels, so I can move it.
Oh, wow. Did you custom build the entire shelf itself?
Exactly. Custom built so I could get it to fit exactly in here. As you can see, there's not a lot of space. And they're all hooked up to a Mist King, and then they all drain, and they actually just drain right out the side of the house there.
Wow.
So here's Frog Ball 2.0. And again, it's custom built just so I could fit exactly what I wanted in there. And I used Beamworks and then Barina LEDs for the lighting. They work pretty well for me.
Okay.
And the plants do wonderfully. Here's my clown Lucamellas. I love those a lot. And then there's some orange Sirensis in here. I'm a big fan of tadpoles for breeding. And of course the coconut huts with petri dishes. For you Familio guys, here are the Red Frog Beach. You can hear them calling away. I got a group of 5, and they do breed in here and have offspring. He's going to be quiet now that I'm showing people. But they're chubby little frogs. They're fun. I like them. These are frogs that I really am trying to get going now, is the Rio Negro Lucamellas. And they're my Charlie Brown frogs, is what I call them.
Yeah, they're relatively new to the hobby, huh?
They are. Now, I'm not exactly sure on if they're an actual locale themselves or line bred fine spot. It's what some people say they are from Europe. I'm not positive on that, but there's just not a lot of info on that.
Sure, yeah.
Chocolate Lucamellas, these guys are awesome too. They're kind of like a standard Lucamellas, but they have lighter pigmentation. Here's the La Coca. Of course, he's running as I try to show him. Another newer Eratus available. And let's see what else we have. One of my favorite in here is these albino Carabic. I don't know if you can see him back there. They look like raw chicken to me.
Yeah.
Pink and cream. Here's some of my favorite new ones. These Yellowback, and I have them in here with some Southern Variabilis. And these guys are great. I love these frogs here. You can see, I think I have my eyes on at least like 6 or 7 Variabilis in there right now. So those are my 2 frog walls. And then also, I have what I call my big tank. So this is a 48, 24, 36 tank. I got Terribilis in there, Phyllobates terribilis, Santa Isabel. I have, actually, you can see the little Adelopus in there. This is from Nick Stacy, U.S. captive bred. Little guy right there. And then there's glass frogs in here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find any right off the top, but what's so cool with this tank is that I have this little water section down in the bottom here, right there. So the Terribilis, the Santa Isabel, they all transfer their tadpoles into there. And then even the glass frogs, you can see a glass frog tadpole on the side right here. The glass frogs will lay their eggs on this vercosum, and the tadpoles hatch and drop right down into the water. So I've had those guys all reproduce in this tank on their own. And then there's also some Borneo tricolor crabs in there, believe it or not. With the frogs, I haven't had any issues with them.
Interesting. Yeah.
So it's just the pretty area, the frog lounge. Like I said, there's the overview of it.
Before we go to a different room, I have a couple questions about the stuff in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. About cohabbing, I think the important thing for people to to know, because if you've been around the dart frog hobby or in a Facebook group or something, you've heard that people caution against it. One of the biggest cautions, guys, if you're tuning into the podcast, is that we don't want to mix morphs in the hobby. So if different species of tinks, aratus, lukes can crossbreed, morphs within the
Right.
same species of tink can crossbreed, and it's really out of consideration for fellow hobbyists that we don't want to muddy the genetics and have something get passed along. And so Kyle's not mixing any of those species together, as he pointed out. He's mixing things from different genuses.
Right.
And he's also doing it based on a lot of experience. And as you saw, large, well-planted vivariums where frogs can get away from each other when they need to. So I think those are the important things
And
that are probably helping it make it work for you.
also, don't assume it's going to work. If a mixing didn't work, I can take them out and separate them. I have other vivariums.
Right.
Don't get yourself in a situation where if it doesn't work, you can't fix the problem. But it's a very taboo subject. A lot of people don't agree with mixing, and for the different bullet points like hybridization, aggression, it's all valid points, which you actually must consider. But if I'm able to do it without having those issues, I do it. I care. Obviously, I care a lot about my frogs. I put a lot of time and effort into them. And I'm able to successfully do it. And if you're experienced enough to try it, I don't see anything wrong with it. If you have to ask how to do it, it's kind of like, well, you don't know enough yet to do it.
Yeah.
I haven't had any problems. And as a show of it, virtually all my frogs breed for me. The ones that are old enough. I have a few that aren't old enough to breed yet. And there is such thing as like stress breeding, but I get regular eggs from my clutches. I actually collect eggs every day. The frogs that are happy and healthy enough to regularly breed are obviously, happy and doing well. So that's how I kind of reassurance to me that they're doing well. And, they're all great shape frogs.
Very cool. Yeah, man, that frog room is so beautiful. I love that it's so tidy and, like you said, presentable in your home. A lot of us, myself included, don't go that route. I'm in a basement on baker's racks, not quite as tidy as your setup there. But I love seeing that as, one frogger to another. I love seeing custom racks that are plumbed for drainage, that have really nice misting systems in them, that are so well planted out. That's really awesome. I'm curious, because I don't see it because it's hidden by those barn boards. What substrate and substrate layers do you like to use?
So I use Egg Crate for my drainage layer, because it's the most void, openness for water to drain, and ABG substrate. Some of these tanks I have fluval stratum mixed in there because I thought the plants might like a little bit of extra nutrients. But yeah, so they'll just let's see if I can kind of peek in the side of one of these tanks here. Let's see. I'm looking blind in here.
Yeah,
okay,
we can see it.
Egg
crate false bottom. Yep.
Yeah, and they're all plumbed. Let's see back here. You can see some plumbing back there. This is again why I have them on wheel so I can get back here if I need to. But they're all plumbed as drainage, and of course it covers up all the lights and all that stuff. So by having a nice display, it's how my wife agrees to let me have all this in my house and take up a couple rooms with it.
It's awesome.
She made this. I've got to give her credit. She knitted this blanket for me. It's pretty sweet.
That is nice.
With head. And then she makes me like this is my little orange terribilis. She made when we first started dating. She made this for me. It's pretty cute.
Nice.
I'm a big fan of so all the labels are Cloud Force design, as well as I'm trying to recreate this mimicry poster of all the different. Whoops! Of course, there it goes. All the different, why they call them imitators. I got most of those on there.
Cool.
I'm trying to recreate that. So this is a nice looking area, presentable, open to the house, and then everything else associated with dart frogs, I have literally behind closed doors. So
right on.
We're going up here. We got my office behind these double doors. So this is the frog office, and this is where I do everything else. So we'll start with the eggs. Like I said, I have quite a few eggs. I collect eggs every day, and start off, with just the freshly collected eggs. and then they develop all the way down. I keep rotating them down from one shelf to the other until tadpoles that have just hatched. Like there's some fine spots right there. A cool thing I'll show you, so those albino eratus, they also have, of course, the albino tadpoles, which are white. Pretty cool. And when the tadpoles hatch, I put most of them into my tadpole system here. I started out with cups, quickly got too many, overwhelming, keeping tadpoles in individual cups. Some tadpoles you can keep communally, which I do that here. You can see some tanks. But a lot of tadpoles, like the Ranatomaya, can't be mixed. They're cannibalistic. And I wanted to also be able to sell tadpoles, and they'll all look the same when they're tadpoles. So you have to know what's what. So I designed these systems here and built them. This is some flat acrylic that allows me to keep track of all the tadpoles and keep them separated out. And also it makes the care really easy. I can kind of just like broadcast feed in here instead of individually having to do everything. Excellent filtration. I have filter stock for mechanical filtration, wet dry filter there, even got a UV sterilizer on there. Everything's hooked up, of course, to float valve to keep it nice and steady going there.
I think we lost your video, Kyle.
Yeah, we did.
There you are.
Okay. I'm back.
Yeah.
So one way that I'm able to keep all these frogs is I try to automate things as much as I can, such as the misting and the drainage. And then also, it's like water changes. I have everything hooked up to with drain lines and float valves. So it just keeps things nice and easy. So after the tadpoles grow and they get their front legs and everything in here, I have this highly customized frog transfer rack.
Nice.
This the wine rack.
Yep.
And have my tilted cups here. And the frogs morph out in there. And once they come up on the land, they go into the grow outs, which are 10-gallon tanks. I used to use these 130-ounce containers. But again, I want something easy and less maintenance. So I have these tanks that also all drilled for misting and drainage, and again have the egg crate false bottoms. And another thing that I thought was pretty clever that I use that helps me keep things clean is I have my RO water hooked up to a hose right here, and I just can go in there and rinse everything down. Frog poop, frog waste, dead flies. It helps me keep everything clean.
Very nice.
That is one thing that I really like, just because stuff builds up in there, And of course, you have isopods and springtails, but you got to be able to just rinse that out. That's what happens in nature. It rains, waste gets washed away. So let's continue here. Plenty of springtails, as you can see. Use a lot of springtails. And of course, the flies over here. And your shipping and all that stuff in my little desk. This is my ride or die Reba right there. But again, so this is the frog office. So everything that isn't attractive is set aside behind closed doors, so it keeps everything nice and happy wife.
Yeah, I think that's why your frog wall looks so nice, is that you don't have your fly cultures and your tadpole petri dishes and everything cluttering up the shelves in that same room. I know you really have done a great job automating and systematizing, and I think it's something, sure, it makes sense because you're producing a large number of froglets to sell into the hobby, but it's all things that hobbyists quickly realize once they have a large collection that it makes or breaks the enjoyment of the hobby. If you start off collecting and just adding one tank at a time over a few years, like a lot of us have, you quickly hit a point where it's just too much work keeping up with everything.
It can be overwhelming. And I was lucky enough to have people warn me early on as I was getting more and more frogs, you don't want it to become a burden.
Right.
Because they are addictive and you just want another frog, another frog, and another frog. And before long, you may get to a point where it's not enjoyment for you anymore. So you got to be really cautious to what you can handle with the amount of time that you want to put into your frogs. and keep it to where it can be an enjoyment for you and not a burden, of course.
That's right. Otherwise, you're going to burn out of the hobby after a few years if you're doing everything
Exactly.
the hard way all the time. So, really nice stuff. I mean, you mentioned RO water. Do you reconstitute with anything before you
I
put it
do,
in? Yep.
absolutely. So this is just for the tadpoles and the replenish. Don't want to use that in your misting system because it'll leave hard water stains on your glass. But I do for the tadpoles. I use 1 milliliter per gallon, and it just brings up the GH and KH a little bit. And then also one thing that I do that I include in my tanks is you can see probably one up here on the top row here is this calcium carbonate reef rock. In
Yep.
my background in aquaculture, I know that at a once you get down into the lower pHs, that will actually dissolve and release ions into the water. And it self-regulates. As it does that, the pH comes back up and it stops dissolving. So I do keep those in the tadpole water to help provide some minerals. In the communal tanks, I do use Indian almond leaves, and I do use those as tadpoles. But because of just the excellent water quality I'm able to maintain in my tadpole system, I don't use any tannins in that system.
Right on. Yeah, all amphibian keepers need to be pretty well versed in water quality. You can't take it for granted. Amphibians have such a strong relationship with water that you got to keep the parameters in order. I've been on well water for years, and so I don't have an RO system, although I'm looking into it, especially for some of my more sensitive newts. One super basic question for someone like you who has a lot of experience in aquarium and amphibian husbandry. Does RO water, tell me what the pH comes out as after it goes through? Is it the same pH as when it went before it went through the system, or?
No, it actually will come out completely neutral because there's not going to be any ions in there to actually measure the pH. It's not so. It's technically, if you do reverse osmosis and DI and get 0 TDS product water, it actually it doesn't register pH.
Interesting. Yep.
In theory, it will be just 7.0, neutral, but there's no anions or cations in there to swing the pH one way or the other. Right.
And so when you reconstitute with minerals, that's when you can start testing for pH.
It'll actually raise the pH a little bit. A lot of this.
Okay.
And so if you're picking out an RO unit, they used to be real expensive, especially if you get one that has the components that you want to it, which is a booster pump. You definitely want a booster pump because that's going to make you have a more even ratio of product water to wastewater. If you don't have a booster pump to force good water through that membrane, you're going to send a lot of water down the drain.
Gotcha.
Another thing I like that isn't as big of a deal, but you want to have just get one with clear canisters so you can see your pre-filters. A lot of those like RO buddies and stuff like that have opaque white canisters. You can't see if your sediment pre-filter is shot or not. And then also if you can find one with a TDS meter that's to show you what your water is producing, that's ideal too. But the main thing is a booster pump. But now you can go on Amazon and get a unit that for a couple $100, and it's a great unit. I have they're so cheap now that I actually have a fish tank too here at home that I just got its own RO unit just so I can keep it running easy. And this is my fish tank. It's a plant wall, as you can see. But right in this closet right here, just a little RO unit in there.
Yep.
And it just makes it easy. Got a float valve on the sump in here. And again, I have a drain on this too. So when I do water changes on my fish tank, I don't use any buckets. It's just all valves and a float valve down there.
Very nice.
Since we're coming over to this area of my house, I actually would love to take you and show you my newest thing, my greenhouse, if you'd like to see it.
Yeah, let's see it. I've noticed on social media you shared about that. I'm really curious about it.
Yeah, so I started trimming plants. Actually, this was during COVID. Well, I've always trimmed plants for my vivariums, but during COVID, I offered plant cutting packages online, and people just ate them up. So I started selling plants, offering plants, and people love my plant packages because I sell them really cheap just because I stuff that I've grown and if nobody buys it, I'm just gonna end up throwing it away. I got to the point where my plant demand has gone up enough that people want more. So I built a little greenhouse here, just right off the back of my house, and I got my plants in here. So it's pretty sweet. I just recently, I'm trying to keep this going all year round. So I've been experimenting with like putting extra insulation bubble wrap on here. It makes it look a little bit more ghetto, but I'm trying to keep this going and not spend tons of money heating it in the winter. But it's pretty sweet here. I got my exhaust fan. I got lights. I got a misting system out here. Of course, you know me. I have to do my misting. Actually, I can trigger that misting system in a second here. But got a little sink out here and everything. And let's see if I can turn on this misting system here real quick. It's kind of cool because it makes it like a little jungle out here. Cue Toto, Africa. So
Is that the primary way you water the? Is that the primary?
It's the only way I water the plants. Yeah, so it keeps the humidity up, and it waters all the plants, so I don't have to. I'm still learning. You know, I'm not a plant expert by any means, but it's coming along nicely, and I enjoy it, and I'm able to help people get tons of cool vivarium plants. So it's my newest little thing at NCdartfrogs.
Very nice.
So I have it on one of these second timers that you can tell it the time on and time off. And so I have it come on for, I think, 20 seconds every 90 minutes. And so far that's working pretty well for me.
Nice.
So that's the greenhouse.
Cool. Well, why don't you find your way back to some place where you're comfortable so I can bombard you with a ton of questions.
Absolutely.
All right. What's the foundation of the greenhouse? Is it on anything solid, or is it built on a patio or something?
Yeah, so I had a concrete poured with slope down towards the center and with a drain on there. So
Nice.
let's see, I'm gonna set this little thing back up here.
Yeah, take your time.
So yeah, it's on a concrete pad, and with a drain.
Very nice.
It was a bit of an investment to set up the greenhouse, but it's something I like.
I love building projects and stuff, and so that really piques my interest. You must have used some sort of rot-resistant wood. What did you choose?
Yeah, so it's a cedar wood, and then I used a nice oil-based stain, much better than a water-based. If you're trying to protect something from water, I don't get why people do that. And then also you can see if you go back and look at the video there, I started out with this cedar shelving, and then I noticed that even though cedar's like rot resistant, it's still not impervious, and I want that greenhouse to last. So I actually got PVC sheets, solid PVC, black PVC, and lined all the shelving with PVC. So it should hold up for quite a while, even in that high humidity.
Nice. And in like the heat of the summer, how do you prevent it from cooking too hot in there?
Yeah. So when I first set it up in there, it would get above 130 degrees in there.
Yeah.
Hot. So I started with the exhaust fan, of course, but then also use a shade cloth on there.
Okay.
I used a 90% shade cloth in the height of summer, and I switched it out to a 40%. I just did that recently. And then in the winter, I might be able to take out the shade cloth altogether. And then also that misting keeps the temperature it brought it down like another 10 degrees. So now I went from like 130 degrees to about 80 degrees in there, which is pretty nice.
Awesome. Yep.
Yeah.
And then you're in North Carolina, right?
Yes, correct.
So in the worst nights of winter, are you going to supplement with a little heat just to keep those tropical plants at like 60 degrees or something?
Yeah, I got a little electric heater, and hopefully that works. It's a 1,500-watt greenhouse heater, and the polycarbonate panels themselves are actually it's commercial grade. It's quadruple wall. And I added bubble wrap too because I don't want to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month heating it. If that's not enough, I do have natural gas at my house, so I'll look at running a line out there and put a natural gas heater in there because that is cheaper than electric. But like I said, it's new, so I'm still working it out. I don't claim to be an expert on the greenhouse yet, but I'm learning, so I'm
Yep.
enjoying.
A nice thing about greenhouse or plants that are propagated in like their own terrariums or their own grow tents or something is that they're plants that haven't come right out of a frog tank, and so customers can sort of rest assured that they're disease free. I know a lot of hobbyists just swap plants. Like, oh, I trimmed my tank and I got this mess of plants that I want to send your way, and that's probably fine, assuming that that hobbyist is trustworthy and has tested their entire collection for ranavirus and chytrid. But it always made me so nervous when just people are swapping things on Facebook with and they don't even know each other, and so they don't really know
Yeah,
those plants taken right out of a tank. Who knows? It's a
that's
little bit, yeah.
the scary thing, especially if you get something like a frog disease, like ranavirus or chytrid in there. I mean, that could end the hobby for you right there. It could wipe everything you have out. That's an excellent
Right.
point. Let alone, pests. You can never guarantee that something doesn't have snails or slugs or anything like that. But it goes a long way in helping flatworms, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. Isn't there like a predatory type of flatworm?
Yeah, they're a pain
Yep.
in the in the butt. They don't hurt the frogs at all, but they'll eat the flies and just leave little dead fly carcasses all over your tank, and then like springtails. So if you're keeping Ufaga and stuff like that, which you have to keep a lot of springtails in there for the babies and stuff, it's kind of hard when you have something in there eating all your microfeeders that you don't want to.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and then if you spent a lot of money on plants, you don't want snails and slugs eating your plants.
Yeah, because they like the expensive plants too. They're not going
Yeah.
to go after your pothos. They're going to eat your jewel orchids and all that stuff.
Right, right. Cool. Yeah, that greenhouse is awesome. Maybe if I get around to it, I when I'm not working on my amphibian hobby, I do some homesteading. I have an acreage here in New Hampshire, quite a bit of property. We do gardening and fruit trees pretty intensively. And I'm working on a greenhouse myself. It's dug into the ground and
Yeah.
uses the earthship style of stacked tires as a retaining wall
Okay.
because it gets real cold here. And so
Yeah.
I'm not going to ever have tropical plants in there in the dead of a New Hampshire winter when it's, 10 below outside. But I'm excited to keep chipping away at that. But stay tuned
Yeah,
because
that's cool though. Especially when you put the greenhouses that are down in the earth. I've seen those, and some of those are freaking awesome because you're just using nature to help keep it steady itself. The earth,
yeah,
geofilm.
that stuff is so fascinating to me, all those different ways. So yeah, that's a great hobby greenhouse for plants and stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Cool. Asked you about water. A little bit more about business. You mentioned that your website is the primary way that you sort of market frogs. Is that the case? Do you sell frogs any other way?
So that's a good question. NCdartfrogs.com is my website. And it is the way that I do all my selling. I actually don't go and vend at any expos or anything like that. And a lot of businesses, a lot of the smaller times, that's the main source of selling is at car expos. Some of the other larger businesses have a website and they do expos. Myself, I just have my website. Uh, I just care so much about my frogs and just packing them up, transporting them, putting them on display for people to Google all over it, and a chance that they might sell, or they might just pack them back up and bring them home again and do it again the next weekend. I just don't like the feeling of doing that to my frogs.
Yeah.
It's me. A lot of people do it, and there's nothing wrong with it, I guess. But for me, I just don't want to do that to my frog, especially if it's like something that doesn't sell. Like, and you just every weekend you're packing up this frog and taking it somewhere and then bringing it back. It's like I don't want to do that. So yeah, I just do my website. Social media marketing. I don't do any paid advertising or anything like that. Just word of mouth. My biggest thing is uh, customers, happy customers, talk to their other friends that are in the hobby, and that's how my business grows. I do stuff like going on your podcast, and I've been on some other podcasts and stuff like that. Help spread the word, help some more business out. But yeah, just website. It's it gives me the biggest market possible versus like even a retail store or anything like that. I have the whole nation. I provide a healthy live arrival guarantee. If you read on my website, I have a detailed description on there, and there are qualifiers. But in reality, and in practice, if anything happens to any frogs, even if it's not my fault, if it's a UPS fault, I just replace them.
Sure.
And sometimes it hurt. Last winter, not quite a year ago, I actually had a $2,000 order get delayed and due to weather and UPS and all that, and it wasn't my fault at all. But I replaced it because in the long run, it will be better for my business. You don't want a customer to hesitate about having to order frogs and be like, well, what happens if they don't get here safe? Or, I don't want to take that gamble or anything like that. So by completely removing that risk and being like, I will give you a healthy live arrival guarantee. If for some reason it doesn't get there, I'll make it right without question. It just gives the customer more assurance that you're a good place to order from. And I don't have it happen frequently at all, thank goodness. But when it does happen, a few of the reviews on my website you'll read, and people felt compelled to leave a good review just because of, I guess, how well I treated them. They said, no questions asked. He just replaced it completely.
Yep.
So, like I said, it's not something that happens a lot. I wouldn't be able to conduct a business if it happened a lot. But it is something that I just completely take on my end. Like I said, I used to do aquatics and seahorses, which are actually a little bit more sensitive than the frogs.
Yeah.
So I have about 15 years experience of packing live animals to be shipped. So I'm really good at it. I take pride in it. I kind of, understand and think about the different aspects that go into it as far as thermodynamics and stuff like that. And I have a excellent success rate. But yeah, so anybody that buys anything from NCdartfrogs.com, and rest assured, it's healthy live arrival guarantee. If you order it, you'll get it.
Awesome.
Even if something happens to it.
Yeah, I think most hobbyists are connected on the internet somehow, whether they're super active on social media or whether they just browse websites like yours. And so I think that's a great business model to make the frogs available to anyone in the nation. Animal shipping has really been standardized over the last 15, 20 years, like you said, to the point where we can do so quite reliably. On that topic, though, if someone has never shipped an animal before, or they're a little bit nervous having a dart frog shipped to them, maybe they're a new customer of yours, they've never received an animal in the mail, can you explain to me what the customer can expect on their end of things, and then tell me what your standard is for a well-packaged frog?
Okay. So, a little bit of insider info on there to share with some people. So I'll take you back into my frog office here. So for shipping boxes, I make my own boxes, and I do that because I don't want to use 3/4-inch foam like you can get from different reptile shipping companies that send it. I want to use a 4-inch, and then also I like to use the reflective line.
Yep.
And then also inside of there, I also have the insulating foil bags.
All right, nice.
So this allows me to get more into it. Like, let's say it's going to be really, really cold. Not only am I going to have a cryo pack and all that in here with the frogs, but outside of the inner bag, I don't know if I'm showing this, I can have like a heat pack where it's not going to be in the same compartment as a frog, but can keep the surrounding areas going well. Use cryo phase packs, which is a phase change material that doesn't produce heat itself, but is basically a thermal mass. And then also I use water is a really good sink of energy. So I have these bags. It's just cricket gel, water crystals, plant crystals, that again I put in the bottom of most every frog box, but just to keep some. Again, it's thermal mass. It's something that takes energy to warm up or holds on to a lot of energy if it's cold out there. So they're packed really, really well. And even beyond that, I not only has all that, but I fill a box with loose insulation. And not only does this basically give you as much insulation as you can, but it prevents the frogs from knocking around in there. Um, so that's why even though a lot of companies don't ship in colder weather, I feel safe and confident doing it because I put a lot into shipping my animals and basically it's like you could send this little box to the moon and it'll probably be okay.
Right on.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and and same with plants. All my plants I ship in insulated boxes. Even if it's not really necessary. It's why not? Just it'll just arrive better. Um, it's just something I like to do to um, make it just safer. You know, why not? Like it costs the extra, what at most maybe $5 on my part.
Right.
I'm good with that.
Yep.
Again, because it. I love it when return customers are what I like because it shows that they've tried it and they like it and they want to do it again. And so I love that I have customers that, my Shopify website tells me they have 17 previous orders. I'm like, that's what I like. That's what I like.
Right on. Yeah. Yeah, I found some thermal mass product. It's just sold as like ice gel, but it comes not hydrated, and it must basically be cricket crystals or
Yep, exactly same thing.
the stuff
Yep,
that's
that's what
in
this is.
diapers or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. It's
The same
poly.
stuff.
It's really it's the same stuff. I get mine. It doesn't come hydrated. I make those. And I make them ahead of time. Put them in a Ziploc bag and then heat seal it so it can't bust back open. Um, and it's just so when I go to packing, I ship out Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. And when I do that, I don't want to have to like put together a box or make all that stuff at a time. I have it all kind of staged for me.
I've noticed that a lot of reptile people like to drill and poke holes through the cardboard, through the styrofoam into the main compartment. They must be concerned that the animal doesn't have enough air to survive the
It's
trip.
for the heat packs. It's for a heat
It's
pack.
so that the
It's
heat pack can consume
so the heat
oxygen.
pack is an exothermic reaction that actually can run out of oxygen. And so you have to provide it oxygen um, by poking some holes in there and allowing it to get in there. But you got to kind of know what you're doing because you don't want to make it so open that it's just all the cold air getting in, but you got to let it breathe. But a lot of times, if you get a box shipped to you, and when you open the box and you like the heat pack's cold, it's no longer, it's not working, it's failed. But then you touch it like 5 minutes later, it's warm. It's because that heat pack ran out of oxygen. And
Yeah.
but then once you open up the box, it started reacting again. So that is the holes in the box are something that are needed. Like if I shipping really cold weather, that is something I will do. I will poke a hole through the cardboard and the styrofoam so it can get to the heat pack that has been exposed, but then still in that reflective insulating bubble wrap is still sealed around the frog, the tadpole. Um, so, like I said, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
as far as oxygen needs for the frogs, it's surprising how little oxygen they use. I actually recently got some frogs that the person forgot to even poke holes in the film canisters they sent them in. And I'm like, these are going to be dead frogs when I open this up. And it was like 8 of them. They're all fine in
Huh.
the film canister.
Yeah.
With holes. And so it's surprising. You don't want to risk it or whatever, but it's surprising how little metabolic need they have. My tadpoles, when I ship them in fish bags, and I heat seal the bag closed. I don't use oxygen or anything like that. And I've tested it out when I first started shipping a lot of tadpoles, and they're good in those bags for like weeks
Yeah.
without any air. Eventually, I opened it up because I wanted to put more, give it food, but they're not going to run out of air in there. I used to work at a fish wholesaler, and when I first came down here, when I built the coral farm, and the bettas, the Siamese fighting fish, come in sealed bags or whatever, like any fish that's going to come in a sealed bag. But they don't get opened up and put into a fish tank. They just in that closed bag on the shelf until a customer buys it. And it'll be like weeks and
Yikes.
it's
Yeah.
sitting in that bag, no air, no food, nothing, just sitting there. And I'm like, I don't like it, but I'm impressed by it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It doesn't mean it's the right thing to do, but it's a
yeah, yeah.
testament to their metabolic needs, like you said.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm curious about tadpoles. At the height of the years I was involved with dart frogs, people weren't shipping tadpoles, but now it has become quite commonplace. So clearly, you find that they're hardy enough to survive shipping, and they're hardy enough to acclimate to a new keeper's situation. What instructions do you give a customer who wants to receive tadpoles from you? What should they have set up so that the tadpoles they get from you acclimate really well to their care?
Great question. So, and you do want to make sure people know what they're doing. So, I have a great informational article on my website about a couple things, but the first one I actually ever wrote was about tadpole care, and it goes through all the different methods: cup method, communal method, what can be housed communally, what not. Um, it I don't advertise it on my website, but if you get tadpoles from me, and also for some reason I've run out, you actually, when you open that box, you'll find that I've included tadpole food, Indian almond leaf, there's some Java moss in there with that tadpole. I just do it. It's a tadpole I
Nice.
send. Um, and so everything besides the water in the cup, everything you need is sent with the tadpole, just because I want to make sure that that tadpole is gonna be okay. I don't want somebody to order something and not realize that they don't have everything they need for it. But they're really hardy. Now you don't want to take a tadpole that just hatched like this week and ship it. Um, Let it grow some, let it get some, meals in its belly, um, and so it can be a little bit more robust. But they're really not difficult. Speaking of betas, I think they're kind of like a beta. Just can keep it there in a cup. You don't need any water movement or filtration. Um, just don't feed it too much. That's probably the number one cause of if people don't have good luck with the tadpoles is of just fouling the water by feeding it too much and that food decays. So one thing you'll see that I'm a big proponent of, and I have in my tadpole care guide, is that remove that leftover food if your tadpole doesn't eat it. Little turkey baster, pipette, whatever, just take it out. Um, but they're not difficult at all. They're about half the price of a frog of the same type. Is how I price them, and so you're able to get more frogs and more of what you want at a cheaper price. And then also you know that you have a nice young frog that you're going to be able to enjoy its full life. Some people get into the hobby and start looking like I want a proven mated pair of this frog. It's like, okay, I mean that's cool, but I mean, for all you know, that frog could be more than halfway through its lifetime already. Tadpoles make sure that you're going to be able to enjoy that frog for the longest amount of time. And like I said, they're more available. A lot of especially Rana Tamaya, you'll find on my website, aren't in stock as frogs because people just buy them up as tadpoles before they even get the chance to morph out. So you can some frogs that you may not be able to find as a frog, you can more easily find as a tadpole. Um, and it is something that's newer. I know a lot of people that have been doing it a while. One old, more old school guy that uh, I've learned some things from told me that he started selling tadpoles because people didn't believe him that he bred the frogs. They'd be like, "You didn't breed that. You're just like reselling them or whatever." And he's like, "Well, I'll sell you the tadpole of it." Um, so I think that's one way that it got started. But it's good. I probably sell more tadpoles than I do frogs.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think that might have something to do with the from everything I can tell, there's a supply demand imbalance in the hobby, and that there's more demand than there is supply for most dart frogs. And so people are eager to get them, and when they see them available as tadpoles, they snatch them up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And I have a little thing on my website. People a lot of times don't notice it until I point it out to them. They're like, "Can I get it on a waiting list or something like that?" I'm like, if you actually look at the right side of your screen, you can see where you can sign up to be notified just automatically when I add something back in stock. My website will send you an email, and it's kind of funny. I'll go through and add stuff in stock on the website. Just I try to do it at least once a week. And then, shortly after doing that, I hear a couple, my phone makes a little noise when I get an order. And it's like, well, they got an email and they jumped on there and grabbed something up before somebody else did. So there
Yeah.
definitely is a good demand for most all frogs. And even people like, so with the Santa Isabel, which you guys, that's probably who's mostly been calling this whole time. And people are like, oh, they're like rabbits, they're breed crazy, and you won't even know what to do with all of them. And, so don't get them. You won't be able to find new homes for them. Um, if I look at my analytics on my website, I've sold more Santa Isabel than any other frog.
Nice. Yeah.
So, like, it's because they're super easy. They're cheaper than other frogs. And people that are just getting into the hobby, maybe they want a frog that's loud and likes to call and easy, can raise its own young. There's nothing wrong with that. So even the cheaper frogs still have a great demand here. So this tank here, I once took out 50, 50 Santa Isabel to sell to another frogger, because I had so many in there. And afterwards, I didn't even, looking at the tank, like it didn't even look like I took any out. I see like the same amount in there. So I really don't know how many of them are in there right now. I started out with I think a dozen, but there's tons of them in there.
Right. Wow. Hey, I got a sort of a customer service related question. I have a website, frograck.com, that's an old website that I'm trying to update, but it's mostly just informational. There's no online shopping. And when I do have available animals, I've chosen to sell on Morph Market, which has made it really easy for me to accept payments and post listings for
It's
animals.
shipping too.
Yep,
It's
that's
shipping.
true.
Their shipping is cheaper than I buy my shipping from. I ship through my website just because it's convenient. I don't have to like copy paste all this information, whatever. But and I don't know how long Darian or whatever his name is will keep it going. But they offer great shipping, especially if you're not like do it like have a whole website and all that. Morph Market is a good place.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm not a very technologically inclined person as far as setting up websites and computer stuff. So I like that it's one click to print my shipping label on Morph Market when I do make a transaction. And I know that you probably know how to set that up on your own website. But
I have a tech guy.
Yeah.
I have a tech
Okay.
guy. So one of my friends, who actually I know him all the way back from when he built my seahorse website, built me my frog website, and he actually he reminds me of you kind of because he's a homesteader.
Yeah.
And he has a couple acres that he does all of his vegetables and rabbits and goats and all that. But I am not a huge tech guy in my house. That's my wife's job. But I'll give him a shout out. His name's Jeremy Shink Consulting, and he sets me up well.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I imagine when you have a website like yours, customers can browse, and when they're ready to make a purchase, they can click and check out, and their purchase has been completed.
Mm-hmm.
The interface, whether you're trying to just market through private message on social media, which some hobbyists do, or even on Morph Market, every transaction first starts out as a DM inquiry.
Yes.
And I have probably like most people on Morph Market, I have a terrible rate of sale completion. So for every 10 questions I take the time to answer, I get maybe one sale.
Yep.
What's it like from your end of things? I know you're super committed to customer service and you'll answer anyone's questions, but from a business perspective, you got to think about how much time you are spending in your DMs. So you have social media, and I'm sure you're talking to people there, and then you have a website which really streamlines sales. What is customer service and communication like for you as a business owner?
Very similar to what you're saying. There's a lot of customers that a lot of people I talk to extensively that even some those straight out say that they want to start keeping a frog that like I don't work with or whatever. So I know going forward it's not going to be a sale. But it's still in the long run, I put the time that I can into it just to have that friendly demeanor, great expectations from customers. Because I think it just helped me in the long run. Now you do need to maintain a balance. I have kids and a wife and all that. I don't want to, deny time to them because I'm always helping people with questions online. I guess the one thing I can say that helps is I find myself posting the link to my informational articles a lot on my website. Now I put time into these articles. I get a lot of compliments on them because they I have great prose and pictures and all that. So as far as care of animals, and I have like fruit flies and all this other stuff that people really have questions out of. It allows me just to post a link and not spend as much time having to explain it to a person the same questions again and again and again. And if somebody I post a link and they still have questions and it's something that I didn't touch on in that article or whatever, I'll spend the time with them. But if it's something that like it's like, well, that was in like the second paragraph of that article. Like if you're not going to take the time to read this thing that I provided you, then I'm not going to give you like one-on-one individual service there. But it is the conversion rate isn't really high. Shopify gives me those analytics. It gives me tons of analytics. I can see where people came from as far as like they came from Facebook and they landed on this page, or they came, this was a Google search result that led them and they came straight to the article page, whatever. It's a lot of info that Shopify provides, which is great. A lot of it I don't even understand the technology behind it, but I know that the conversion rate is pretty low. It might be like 12%, maybe something like that. It's not, which is like 1 in 10. It's not great. But I think that's kind of just what it is. It's everybody that visited my website bought something. I would be out of stock of everything. I think you might have froze. Oh no. I think you lost me. There you
All
are.
right, I'm back. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that you heard.
Probably just missed a sentence. Yeah, so that's part of it. I do the same thing. I'm happy to answer people's questions. I'm trying to populate frograck.com with more care sheets so I can ask them to, like you said, read there first and then come back with more detailed questions. Yep.
Exactly.
And I mean, we're all hobbyists first. I think anyone selling animals loves them and cares about them and wants to share information about them. But like you said, keeping a life balance so you're not chronically in your DMs re-explaining to people how to care for animals. I hope this podcast is another resource for people in the hobby to learn more and learn how to care for these animals.
And I think it should be, and has a chance to be. I don't know if other people have heard of the Amphibicast podcast. I know you have, but once you get to a point where there's not many like up-to-date books on dart frog keeping, and you kind of read what you can in the groups. And Dendro board used to be a thing, but isn't as active now. But if you just want more detailed information, when you get people on podcasts that have specific knowledge on different things, that's a great way to learn. So this podcast, Frog Rock podcast that you have, could be a great resource for people. I know I'm going to share this episode with on my social media and all that stuff, and hopefully get people to see what exposed both of our Frog Rack and NCdartfrogs.
Right on. Yeah. I'm curious I like the business side of the hobby. I think it's great to produce and sell animals. That's what I'm passionate about. I guess personally, I don't identify as just a pet keeper. Like I've never kept an animal that I didn't want to reproduce in the 25 years I've been doing it. And like I mentioned earlier in our interview, it's sort of a logical progression that if you produce offspring, you need to sell them. And I pay a lot of attention to the other aspects of the reptile industry other than just dart frogs, other than just amphibians. And I'm so excited about the potential for amphibian hobbyists because it's not like trying to be a ball python breeder or a crested gecko breeder where those markets are healthy, if not saturated. And so to stand out, you have to be a social media star, or you have to be engaging on Palm Street with a live audience or something like that, because you're one of a million people trying to sell the same live animal. But in most of the amphibian hobby, if you have healthy animals for sale, they almost sell themselves. As long as you can present it to people, like we talked about, as long as you are a competent shipper who can get the animals to people healthy, and as long as your animals from the get-go were quality animals, it's no problem moving them.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm curious what the market is like, what's popular these days. What sorts of dart frogs are people coming to you the most Like, what morphs are they asking for the most, or what are you always sold out of, or stuff like that?
Uh, so I think overall, it's kind of, it's the Ranitmeyer or uh always like sell out quicker, I guess you could say. But they also have like smaller clutches. So I don't necessarily think that it's necessarily like people don't aren't buying as many like tinks. It's just the tinks are much more have a much higher fecundity. Um, so it's kind of even across the board, really. Like even I say, even just the Santa Isabels, people buy them. People like Azuris and stuff like that. It's hard to beat a blue frog. And then people like the peacocks. Stuff like that, the more colorful ones. But it's across the board. There's no frogs that like I really sit on for a long time. Occasionally, I'll have adults available because they kind of go through seasons, and I'll get a lot of like citronellas or powder blues or whatever. But then once people see like an adult frog for sale, they quickly sell us that. Um, so there's really nothing that I have that doesn't sell well. Really, like I think you said, like with amphibians, if it's healthy and it comes from a good source that you're reputable, um, and you can get it to the people, it'll sell. So
Right on. It
yeah,
doesn't look like between Frogwall 1.0 and Frogwall 2.0, it doesn't look like you have a lot of extra tank space looking for new frogs. But if you were to
yeah.
get a new frog, what's at the top of your wanted list?
Uh, that's a good question, and I like some of the large obligates, like Bahia Salona, red saddleback. Those are really pretty frogs. My wife wants Old Marie pinks because they get really big, like citronella. Citronella and Old Marie are the largest size tinks. Some people don't know tinks get some of them get more than twice as big as the other ones.
Yep.
Um, and it's kind of hard to say because if I want something, I kind of just get it. If I can find it. Um, some more of the obscure Renatamaya I would like, but I don't know. That's a tough question to answer. Here are these La Coca Aratus. You don't see those a lot. They're coming out gracing me with their presence.
Nice. Yeah,
And then there's
I'm just curious. Just curious what catches your eye, what your tastes are right now in dart frogs.
I like bold frogs.
Yep.
I like frogs that you can see. I don't want to have to search through everything to find them. I wish these guys would breed for me. They're so cute. They're just getting of age now though, so I can't complain. But yeah, I kind of like everything.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Kyle, for giving us the tour of all your frogs at NC Dart Frogs. This is one of many, many dart frog topic podcasts that I have done and will be doing. Dart frogs are a huge part of the amphibian hobby, so we talk about them a lot. We didn't go over specific sort of like care sheet husbandry of dart frogs because we covered a lot in this podcast, but I do want to point people to the articles that you wrote on that topic at ncdartfrogs.com. So if you're listening to this podcast and you've enjoyed seeing and hearing about Kyle's frogs, and you're a beginner and you want to know how to set up dart frogs or how to culture fruit flies, go to ncdartfrogs.com, read about it there. Is there anything else that you want to say to the folks listening?
Well, again, go to my website. I appreciate that. There is tutorials and informational articles on there that are great. And then also, you can reach out to me on social media. I do Facebook and Instagram. And so you can find me on either one of those and send me a friend request so you can follow. I post stuff pretty much every day because I am a frog addict and I like the dark frogs. But I do think this is the area of the hobby in general, keeping vivariums is growing very well. Is awesome to keep. It's just a little slice of nature in your house, and it's not as expensive. Like reef keeping or anything like that is also really cool. But you gonna put a lot of money into it. Dart frogs, you can have something amazing, and it's not as labor intensive, not as difficult, and just as beautiful. So even if you don't have any frogs yet, I encourage people to look into giving them a try. Like others warned to me that I didn't listen, they are addictive.
Yep. Pretty soon that frog tank is a frog rack, that frog rack is a frog room. But there's nothing wrong with
Right.
that.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed seeing your systems. I
Thank
really
you.
admire the thought that has been put into the efficiency, the cleanliness. Such an awesome place you got going on there, Kyle. So thanks so much for joining us on the Frog Rack podcast, Kyle. Take care.
You too. Thank you.